Hello, everyone. If you were unable to attend yesterday's webinar on how to prevent a cyber crisis, we're here today doing a recap. For everybody watching, this will be the first of many videos which we're going to put on after every Risk Institute event that we host here at the Excel Group. These videos are meant to summarize some of the key topics discussed and perhaps make you want to tune in and watch our next webinar. Today, we've got Cynthia Zimmerman, who's an executive vice president with Socius Insurance in Florida. I'm led to believe that the 80-degree weather she has is slightly better than the 34 we have here in Iowa today. Cynthia is a management, professional, and cyber subject matter expert for the Beyond Insurance Global Network and has worked with them to create the accredited Cyber Risk Advisor designation program. Welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you. Welcome.
So we'll just jump right in here if that's okay with you. One of the things that came up today is that obviously, there are insurance coverages that can be in place. But beyond that, why is it important for a business to make sure they have proper procedures and protocols in place when it comes to protecting their data?
I think the short answer to that is if you've ever been involved in a breach, you would know you don't want to be involved in a breach event. I have experienced it. I was involved in a situation where our third party provider went down. It put us out of commission for easily a few weeks. Also, the cyber market has changed dramatically in the last, say, year and a half. Previous to now, it was give me your name, your address, your nature of operations, your revenues, and have you ever had a claim? And with that information, we've been able to put out quotes from multiple companies, giving you the absolute, Maserati of coverage at the Yugo price. It was a lot of coverage for very little price. And now it's give me as much information as you can, and they're really underwriting the procedures and protocols that policyholders or applicants are using to mitigate their risk. So they're basically looking now for people that are using insurance as a supplement to their own risk management as opposed to a replacement thereof.
Excellent. Obviously, there are going to be some people that are watching this and they're going to say, well, I don't know if this applies to me or not. Are there specific industries that you're seeing that are frequent targets of cyber breaches, or does this apply to everybody?
Well, I think it does apply to everybody because we all use the internet and are interconnected through, even if it's just email, or even if not, the storage of our own data on our computers in-house. So I think everybody is affected. Certainly, there are industries that are going to be more heavily impacted. Industries like healthcare that have a lot of patient data. Healthcare has been affected a lot. Government and municipal type entities like schools, government schools, they have oftentimes got antiquated computer systems that have all these like arms and legs sticking out at it everywhere, trying to make it work. And they often lack the controls and they become easy targets for hackers. Manufacturing has been hit very, very hard. Manufacturers, a hacker can get into their systems and maybe shut down the supply line, and it prevents them from making whatever their widget or product is.
When a breach happens, what advice would you give to businesses on how to manage those once you realize you've been breached?
Well, sometimes you don't know in the beginning. Things might just look awry. And, my first response to everybody is to call the bat phone. If you have insurance, pick up the phone and call the number on the policy. Those companies all have breach counsel or somebody manning a 24/7 line that you can call and say, here's what's going on. Something doesn't seem right. I think I might be under attack right now. The sooner you engage them, the better. And then if they need to engage legal counsel, they will. If they need to engage forensic specialists, they will. But they'll guide you through that process early, and early is often very helpful in bringing these to resolution quickly and at less cost overall.
Excellent. Obviously, it sounds like there's an uptick in the number of cyber breaches. Is it fair to assume that you've seen an increase in number of businesses that are adding cyber breach and other sort of cyber coverages to their insurance portfolios? And if you have, what coverages are the most important for businesses looking to add some to be able to focus on?
So, coverages vary critical. And these policies are all manuscript, so there are no two companies that forms look even remotely alike. Definitely, there's been an uptick in purchase, partly because there's been an uptick in requirements. When Target breach happened, which is like ancient history at this point, but when Target was breached, after that, they started requiring $10 million limits from anybody that connected with them electronically. And then that became very common after that for companies to start requiring cyber coverage should be in place if you were communicating electronically with them. So that was part of the reason for the increase. But I think that everybody has seen, especially in the last couple of years, the claims. I mean, if you open the paper on any given day or open the internet on any given day, and who opens a paper anymore? Do they even make them anymore? That's the question. But you can look and find articles every single day about, small organizations, medium organizations, large organizations that have been compromised. When it comes to coverage, obviously, as a broker, my job is to get you the best coverage that I can get for the most reasonable price. And what I never want to see is somebody who has a claim situation that is left uninsured, especially when it's a coverage that's readily available in the marketplace. The most common claims that I see are ransomware related or social engineering. Now, a ransomware claim could involve a breach of confidential information, or it may not. When you have a breach of confidential information, you have a potential notification issue, right? You have to notify the affected people. You may have to provide credit monitoring. So all those breach response services are very important. Having the forensic coverage and the data restoration coverage on your policy. So if you have a hacker that does access your data and maybe destroys your database, that you have the ability to recreate it. Or if you opt to restore data from a database and recreate, or from a backup tape rather, and recreate the database, reload that information on there, that's an option that you have, maybe in lieu of paying ransom or in addition to paying ransom, depending on the circumstances. So having that coverage as part of the policy is very important as well. The forensic piece in determining what went wrong and how to fix that problem, how to close the hole, how they got in, kind of working through that whole process is really important as well, because you want to make sure that they are in fact out of the system and that there's not a chance for a repeat event, because that does happen as well. And then on the social engineering piece, making sure that you have the proper cybercrime coverages in the policy to make sure that you have protection if somebody, primarily the big one is if somebody tricks you into sending money to the wrong account.
Absolutely. So I appreciate all that insight. And one of the tricky parts is that while people should or businesses should be adding additional coverages, it's getting harder to be able to secure some of those coverages. Some of our carriers are looking for specific protocols that they have in place. What are some of the red flags that you see that would prevent a business from being able to obtain the insurance that they need?
I think that what the most common requirements right now are multi-factor authentication, we call it MFA, and EDR, endpoint detection and response. Those are the two most common. And I'd say the third is probably multiple and offsite backups. And hopefully those backups are encrypted. Those three things are the things that most markets want to have. And if they don't yet require it, they will be very soon, because the change in the guidelines is daily. Even if you are not looking to secure insurance from a protective standpoint, those items are going to give you more protection in the long run and save you potentially a lot of dollars if you were to have an event, a lot of downtime, a lot of aggravation. And there's always the reputational part of that as well, of how people perceive you as an organization.
In addition to coverage being more difficult to obtain, it's also becoming more expensive. Is that correct?
It is, with the requirements, it does help mitigate that. There are some markets that won't even quote without some of those minimum standards, but pricing, even on the cleanest, most vanilla risk, I would say at a very, very, very minimum, is going up at least 25%. I would say 50 to 100 in many cases is the standard. And I've actually seen some go up 4 or 5 times their premium. So it just depends on the industry. It depends on the controls that they have in place, but there have been significant increases.
Sounds like to help mitigate some of those costs to be able to obtain the coverage that you need. I would like to talk about some of those controls and procedures. You just mentioned MFA and EDR. Would you like to talk a little bit about what those are and why they're important?
Absolutely. So MFA, I think most of us can relate to MFA. If you sign into your bank, maybe on a new computer, and you get a text and it says, hey, there's an attempt being made to sign into Bank of America. If this is you, enter this code on the website, and you enter that code and it authorizes you to go in. How does it work? Think about how many times people reuse usernames and passwords, right? So, say somebody gets your username and password when they hack Facebook, for example, and it's the same username and password you use at work. So the first thing they do is they look at the domain name, and it's, excelinsurance.com. And so they go to that website and they try to log into your work account, whether it's email or whatever, using those credentials. If you don't have MFA, they have the username, they have the password, assuming it's the same, they can get in. Easy, easy peasy. What MFA does is it gets you that code. So the person that stole your credentials that tries to log in may have your username and password, but now they have to also have the code, which was sent to either a different email or a text or whatever, to verify that they're you, right? And they're not going to have your cell phone, most likely. So that's why the use of MFA is so great, is because it is so effective at preventing them from getting in. So we like to say that MFA can absolve you from just about all your sins. We recommend that personally and professionally, wherever you can possibly implement it, on your bank accounts, on your Facebook account, on your personal email, on your work email, on your access to your work accounts. From a professional standpoint, the preferred answers to the application questions are: we anyone who remotely accesses our network has there's MFA there to protect it. There's MFA to protect remote access to email. Now, some people may say, well, they don't really access email, but remember, we all have cell phones, and most people access their work email through their cell phone. So that's an important point. You want to have even the cell phone email access be MFA protected.
I would also, you mentioned earlier also EDR, the endpoint detection and response. Would you like to talk a little bit about the importance of that and maybe what it can provide for a company to have that control in place?
Absolutely. So EDR is sort of your antivirus on steroids, if you will. Old school antivirus has a database of known viruses, file names that each company creates. Whether it's what's the one I'm trying to think of? It starts with an N. Norton
Yeah.
antivirus or McAfee or whatever. They have a database of known viruses, and they constantly are updating that database. And then this software that they put on each device scans that device to see if there's a hit, if there's a match to that file name that they know is bad. It quarantines it and allows you to double check and see what you want to do with it. The EDR software is a subscription based software. So you're paying for a company to provide the service and help with the monitoring and so forth. But it protects every device, or they call them endpoints, that are connected to the network. And it does the traditional antivirus scans and so forth, but it goes beyond that with artificial intelligence, and it learns normal behaviors of what different users do, where they access, how much activity they have, whatever the case may be, what parts of the system, what software they generally open, and so forth. And what it does is it learns that to be normal. So if my normal is 300 emails a day that I send, and suddenly I'm sending 500 emails every minute, that's an abnormal behavior, and it detects that abnormal behavior
if you could give us, in addition to all the wonderful information you've already provided, what are some key recommendations that you can give for a business to best prepare for a cyber breach or to avoid one?
Well, my best recommendation is going to be MFA, EDR, and employee training. Employee training. Employee training. The reason for that is so much of what happens is because an employee maybe clicks on a link that they shouldn't have, and that could launch malware. It could take you to a site that launches malware or virus on your system. It also could take you to a site where it may ask you to re-enter your credentials or update your credentials, and what they're really trying to do is steal your credentials. And an example of that would be you get an email from, I'll say, Bank of America. You happen to bank at Bank of America, which, by the way, is probably just a stroke of good luck. And it says, "Hey, we've updated our security posture, and we want you to update your credentials. Click here." And they take you to this website. It looks like it's Bank of America. It says, "Okay, enter your old username and password. Now update your password." Right. And what you think you've updated your password, but what you really did is you were at a fake site that was designed for you to give the hacker your username and password, right? And when they can get into your account or your email, they can use that to reset your passwords on a lot of other things too. So it really can create a lot of problems. And then also that can also lead to social engineering claims as well. So training employees what to look for, what to click on, when not to click on it, how to hover, look for perhaps typographical errors or poorly worded emails or dear sir instead of, dear John. Different things and tricks and tools. That training is invaluable. There's a lot of that floats around the internet that's free. There are a lot of videos and items that are available from various insurance companies that can help train employees. But I think that you can cut down on a lot of claims just from that aspect, and then having the other controls in place makes you a much stronger, safer organization.
I could not agree more. We one of the things that we ask our employees to do is when they see a suspicious email, that they report that to our managed service provider, and then we will share what that looks like out with the rest of our agency, so that if we have somebody click on it, it's only one as opposed to a multiple host of folks.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if you finished the Netflix series Inventing Anna, but I'm a big fan. I've got one episode left, so if you've seen it, don't spoil the ending for me.
I haven't.
But there's a lot of wire fraud or attempted wire fraud in the series, and what is something not just personally but also professionally that people can do to limit the exposure they have when it comes to wire fraud or wiring money.
So wire fraud, and we call that social engineering as well, is very scary, and most especially on a personal level. And I'll share with you a personal experience. My brother and I were buying a house for my parents a few years back, and we were doing it as a cash deal. So there was a rather large sum of money that each of us had to pay to complete the closing. And given what I do, I called my brother because we got an email from the title company saying, here's how much you need to wire us for closing, right? And so I called my brother and I'm like, did you verify this instruction? And he was like, what? And I said, one of us, preferably you, because I'm too busy, one of us needs to call at a known valid number. And this is really important. Not the number in the email, the number that you maybe have printed on a piece of paper from when you met them, or that you Google the internet and find the number for the closing agent or whatever, a known valid number, calling them up and saying, I received this email from you. It directed me to wire a gazillion dollars to account 12345, or better yet, it's directing me to wire money to the account. Can you read to me the account number to make sure I have all this information correct? So having them give it to you, which is another verification method, right? To confirm that that's correct before I wire it. They said, yes, we wired it. But he never thought about that. And he said, had you not said that to me, I just would have wired the money and never thought about it. And potentially, if somebody had compromised our email or theirs, he could have wired a lot of money to the wrong place. So verify, verify, verify. That can be, a known valid number. It could be walking into the office. You might get an email from someone who says it's your boss, and I'm authorizing you to send $1 million to this company because I want to buy this widget. And the boss is like, I need this done now. Don't tell anybody. It's confidential, whatever. And you want to impress your boss. So you do it, you drop everything. But if you don't verify it, it could be fraud.
Oh, this has been incredibly enlightening, a little bit frightening as well. But I think
It keeps me up at night.
that's so hopefully for all the people who are going to be watching this, certainly that you've not only offered some insight into what's happening and what's trending in the industry, but also some things that we can do, actionable items that we can take to help protect ourselves, our exposure, as well as limit some of the expenses that we have when it comes to insuring that risk for ourselves. So this has been fantastic. I greatly appreciate your time, Cynthia. And is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers?
I think you've covered it, but I'm here and available if people have questions, and they can filter them through the team in Excel, and I'll be happy to help any way I can.
Thank you so very much. That's such a generous offer, Cynthia. We, on behalf of
Thank
the
you.
Excel Group, we very much appreciate your time and your expertise today, and certainly hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. And
Thank
for
you.
those folks viewing this, we're going to continue to have these after each of our Risk Institute webinars. So feel free to look out for those as they come in the future. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Matt. Have a great day.
Thanks, Cynthia. You as well.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.